Hi everybody, it's Robert Kennard, and this is the beginning of the second week of our class on preparing our action research project. And in this week, one of your primary activities is going to be involved, that you're going to be involved in, is seeing if you can narrow down an area of interest for your topic for the action research that you're going to conduct in the second portion of the course. And as I was thinking about how to discuss this with you, I went to the bookcase and found my doctoral dissertation. Yes, it's about that thick. And I wrote this back in the late 80s and early 90s. In fact, it was actually completed in 1992. Both my children were born during the time period in which I completed my dissertation, and I promise you that you will all get through the process far faster for several reasons. First of all, technology makes it much better, much faster, much easier. I had to go and find articles in a library and photocopy them. There was no such thing as online accessible research when I was in the research process. The second thing is that the scale and scope of action research is intended to be different than the scale and scope of a doctoral dissertation. But there aren't as many differences as you think. So let me explain. So this big beast right here, which has about 110 pages of text and about 100 pages of supporting documents, is actually going to be organized exactly the same as yours. There are 5 chapters in a doctoral dissertation. Chapter 1 is the problem. What's wrong with the world? What am I interested in? What do I want to study or fix or remedy? And that's really what you're all going to be thinking about in the next few days. Chapter 2 is the literature review. And in the literature review, what you're doing is you are reading and reporting literature related to that problem or that thing in the world that's wrong that you're intending to work on. Then you come to Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is the method of study. It's what you propose to do to see how you can deal with that problem, or how you can mitigate it, or solve it, or whatever it is you're striving to do related to that problem once you've completed your research. You're going to be writing chapters 1, 2, and 3 during the 8-week course that we're in right now. And they're actually pretty short when you get right down to it. Your first chapter will be, for most of you, just a few pages. Your second chapter, which is the review of literature, is going to be the longest. It's going to clock in at somewhere between 15 and 20 pages, and is going to involve at least 20 articles that you're going to read. That's the part of the process that tends to intimidate people when it comes to the writing, but as you're going to learn, it's not difficult. The final chapter, the third chapter that you're going to write during the 8 weeks in EDOL 580, is the method of study, which is what is it that you're going to do to investigate or deal with this problem which you have identified. In action research, we tend to talk about things like, what is the intervention, the thing I'm going to try in order to address that problem? For instance, I had a student previously who was really concerned that his math students didn't ask questions, that they weren't engaged with questions about their homework. And so after some looking around and thinking about it, he came up with a beautifully simple study in which over the course of several weeks he tried 3 different strategies designed to increase his students' questioning and engagement with the material. He tried them out, he tested the kids, he used those strategies in a couple of his classes, and he didn't use them in a couple of his other classes. Since he taught high school, he had 5. And at the end, he gave the kids a common assessment, and he had his results. It's not rocket science. And in fact, the point of action research that I want you all to get is that you're already doing it. You're doing it in your professional learning community at school when you and a group of teachers sit down and say, why aren't the kids doing a better job of understanding the main idea of a literary passage? What's the skill that we seem to be missing? And then you start looking around. You start looking around for interventions. How can we teach this differently? What do we have in our bag of tricks? Or what does someone else have in their bag of tricks that might help us with our students. Now, let's go try it. That's chapters 1, 2, and 3 right there. Literally 1, 2, and 3. Problem: why don't our kids get main idea? Research: how else have people taught main idea? Method: okay, we're going to try this. Chapter 4 and Chapter 5 of a doctoral dissertation are very simply the findings, which at the end, how did the kids do? And the 5th chapter of a dissertation is where the researcher gets to discuss what he thinks the findings mean. In action research, chapters 4 and 5 are combined. So that's it. In a nutshell, that's what the basic model of research is in educational psychology, and more specifically inside schools. It's not rocket science. If it were, we probably wouldn't be able to do it. At least not the really smart, except for the really smart people. So, this week, I want you to think about what you're interested in, what you're working on with your students in your school, or what your team is working on, and what motivates you, what gets you interested, what do you want to know an answer to. And I want you to think of it in the context of your students. You do not have to solve all the problems of the world in your action research study, but what you should be aiming to do is to try something out that you reasonably believe is going to improve your students' learning in your own classroom. Now, to assist you in the process this week, if you choose, there's a series of activities on the assignment list in week 2 that you can try out to help you narrow your topic. There are not points associated with them, and it's not required. The last thing I want to tell you about the topic search is that some of you won't be ready completely for a little while. You may have an area of interest, and I'll say, great, mine your area of interest, do your reading, review the research, and see what you get. It could take a few weeks. That's okay, because everybody gets there. So try not to be intimidated about the writing. It's easier than you think. And enjoy the week. I look forward to supporting you as you find that passion of yours, and we put it into something that you can use to conclude your master's degree. That's all for now. Have a wonderful week.